Welcome to Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey with Jeremy and Becca, your trusted companions in navigating the ever-evolving landscape of virtual care.
Hi, welcome back to Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey. I'm Becca Bean, and today I have with me Anthony Schelfhout. He has a vast amount of experience in the TPA and telehealth space. So today we're going to ask him a bunch of questions so we can really break down that segment of the industry. Anthony, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Becca. I really appreciate it. Before we get started, I've been a fan of yours since we started.
Okay.
I really enjoy the podcast and can't tell you how much it means to be part of it.
Well, awesome. Anthony's been with our team for just a little over a year, and he's brought so much knowledge and experience that I really can't wait to dive in. Can you give everyone just a little bit of background on yourself and your experience?
Sure, happy to. So it's been a journey. I've always been in and around insurance and insurance benefits. So, whether it was after college, starting into a sales rep job for an insurance company, followed by consulting experience. I guess I had it one of the large consulting houses, PEO experience, and helping out in their large group plan that was offered. And then I guess the last 13 years now has been devoted to the telehealth space. So, and the funny part about that, too.
I was about to say, we stole them from a competitor, but we won't name them.
Yeah, I'm not looking to name them. So, but the thing that was the interesting part was that when we first got into this business, the questions all revolved around, is this legal and can we do it? Mm-hmm. And in such a short time, we've really seen an explosion and an adaptation to the virtual services. Early on, I thought to myself, if I could spend the rest of my career in this area, it'd be worthwhile.
Yeah, I think it's one of those spaces that when we started, it was, what is this? Can you do it? My mom still, for the longest time, was like, that just can't be something that's legitimate. And then now she's like, oh, I always use it first. I'm like, yes, it's the great first entry point when you're trying to get into your healthcare, what's wrong space. I mean, unless you're like my son who broke his arm this week, that's a go to the emergency room. But if he just has a cold, you call and speak to a doctor and you get treated and on your way.
Absolutely. And that'll happen 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
I mean, that is really the genesis of where virtual services came from. It's a simple approach, cost-saving approach. I'm sure we'll get into more, but the intuitiveness of the service itself, you don't have to explain it. As you share with people what it really does and how it works, you get a head nod.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Right.
And it's the most reliable conversation piece you can have is yeah, okay, I get it. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, really part of the large adoption of that, across the country these days.
So you and I are both big believers in virtual care and telehealth. Yeah. But I don't think as many people understand what a TPA does. I think the general person in our population may have heard the term TPA, but what does it stand for?
Third-party administrator.
And what does a third-party administrator do?
Well, I appreciate the question. The way I look at it is this. They are a small insurance company.
Okay.
And that's the easiest way to think about it. So realistically, they do everything in a dynamic way from the certificate language, the reinsurance and stop loss. They can bring in a network. And as you see, the TPA is really the hub. I mean, you can go into compliance and billing and collections. They do all of these features. But the long story short is they're the mad scientists, TPAs, if you will. They're the laboratory of really how insurance is crafted here in the United States. We all know of the Blue Crosses and the Humanas, the BUCAs, they call them. Mm-hmm. But long story short, a TPA is every bit the insurance company those large corporate entities are. They just have collectively about 12.5%, 13% of the U.S. population's health insurance in the third-party administrative kind of fishbowl.
So an employer, if they're looking to make their plan selections for the year,
right,
they typically work with a broker, and then the broker can select their TPA, who's really that quarterback around what's being selected for the plan, or am I describing it correctly or incorrectly, do you think?
That's a really nice way of putting it. So when they're making a TPA selection and they say we're going to receive benefits through these folks, again, all of those components are put together. And it used to be, years back when they first started, they were more of an administrative feature, right? It was a claims processing, payment, how quickly can you get this done, so on and so forth. Now the evolution has really become one of a partnership, that quarterback, that leadership. They not only will have selection of the plan language and what needs to be covered and how, as to what levels, the reinsurance, the network, but then what really makes them special is you can go down a laundry list of cost containment solutions. So, and that's really where virtual care fits in. We are a small portion of a cost containment that's really seen kind of on the front end of healthcare. I mean, the coughs, the colds, the flus, those sorts of things. And you've got the ability to plug in all these cost containment solutions. And it might be a pharmacy, it might be virtual services, any number of areas, and then customize your plan design to just the way you want it. The TPAs are in the business of creating a high-performing health plan. That's always been my motto for it, a high-performance health plan. And you're squeezing every last drop out of that claims fund because it's called self-funded or partially self-funded, where the employer is literally, to an extent, saying, I'm putting my money, instead of just giving it to a company and saying it is what it is, we're going to do our best to help control the claims to the extent possible with the group of people we have. And that includes a lot of innovative solutions that TPAs bring to the table. And it could be something as simple as a walking program with wellness attributes, right? And you may get a gift card, and that's great. But those sorts of things are put in to have people engaged in their own health, to try and decrease claims, maybe on the front side to see what those claims look like on an earlier basis, early prevention and detection. But all these things come from your TPA and the customization that the consultant and the employer, that agenda they want to push.
Yeah, and the TPA, I think, has a very important role of doing a lot of that vendor vetting. So not the employer themselves doesn't have to go and look at RFP responses for every subspecialty type vendor, including virtual care services. They really are that resource and subject matter expert that when they present a partner, they've done that vetting. They're bringing people to the table that they respect, that they trust, and they know are going to help actually reduce those costs.
Yeah, best in breed, right? That's really what you're looking for, is the best in breed. And oftentimes TPAs, because they need that flexibility, will have, several RX and PBM vendors. They'll have several virtual care vendors. They'll have several wellness plan selections, because it's not a one-size-fits-all.
And different employers have different budgets and expectations. Yeah. I used to oversee Carrington's product department, and we always joke, you know what, we're going to have a Cadillac version of a product that's going to have every bells and whistles and a Cadillac price tag. But then we're going to have the Kia, and nothing wrong with the Kia whatsoever. It's a sturdy, reliable car, but it might not have the driverless features or all the cool dashboards, at least when I made those analogies maybe a decade ago. But I think that's a TPA's role, is kind of weigh the pros and cons of the different vendors that they put in front of someone.
Absolutely. And that's really where the innovation gets done in our industry. Mm-hmm. I think I'm not going too far on a limb to say that, the fully insured models are pretty much plug and play. Mm-hmm. They're the big box store. This is how we do it. And if you don't like it, so be it. There's a few others to choose from, but kind of that widget stamping out, here's what we do and how, which works a lot of the time, really does. But if you want innovation, if you want a high-performing health plan, if you want to really get involved in arguably the second largest cost in any business, the TPA is the way to go. And for the privilege I've had to meet and work with the last 6 years, TPAs, I'll share with you this. They're true believers. You have people that are healthcare is a business, and then you have folks that believe they can make it better. They believe they can make it less expensive. They believe they can bend the cost curve, right? Those folks are doing it every day.
And I would say it's, while cost containment is huge, I also think they care so much about the consumer experience, that end employee experience. Really, they want to make sure that it's tailored, that they're identifying those populations that are at risk, right? And getting someone into a care management program, maybe with a complement with virtual care services, really trying to make sure that that end consumer knows what they have access to. Because healthcare can be daunting for a consumer. And I think the TPA really works with the employer to lay out what that looks like, what that roadmap is for the employee to know how do you engage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, they say all politics is local. Mm-hmm. Not the same with TPAs. They have a geographical sphere of influence so many times. Not that they don't have national employer bases, But so many times they draw from the local community within several hundred miles or, a particular geographical area that are the majority of their cases. These are people they work with, their friends, their neighbors. They want to do the best for the folks in their...
You don't want to go to a barbecue and someone be upset with you because their health plan's costing too much money, right?
Amen.
It's definitely an industry overall about building relationships. And I think TPAs are kind of that core of building the relationships with those that supply the services and those that are purchasing. They're really great at making those connections of the right fit for the right person.
Right.
So what do you think would be a reason someone chooses not to go through a TPA or a smaller TPA? We know there's the big house TPAs. Why do you think people choose a small one versus a large one?
It may not necessarily be size driven, but it may be like anything. Each TPA has their own personality, right? There may be an emphasis on service, individual customer service, right? Where you've got bench depth in account management, one-on-one attention, whether it's open enrollment and people are out there, those might be the important features. And those might be in a particular TPA. Others may be speed to access or easy to get it issued, or maybe something particular to a reinsurance or a laser spec that needs to be put on someone with a particular condition that's more easily handled by a different TPA. There's any number of reasons. It hasn't been my experience, at least the ones I've worked with, where necessarily the size of the TPA had as much to do with the size of the client base. It was more, what does that flavor look like? And like anything, TPAs have sales reps. Some of the most successful salespeople are those owners of the TPAs. When you get a chance to really work with some of those owners that have been there and a generational or legacy.
I was about to say, there's a lot of family and passion in that industry. And it's really, you can tell there's so much heart behind it when it's tied to just building something for a legacy.
Yeah, it's passed down. Amen to that. And it seems the second generation knows even more than the first. They're building on that and expanding that depth of knowledge. They're adapting the new technologies. And it really is something to see. I know many of the BUCAs have expanded by purchasing independently owned TPAs. With the baby booming generation kind of setting up their moving forward planning, I think you're seeing that in any number of industries. But certainly the TPA industry is not...
You mean people don't raise their hand going out of college going, you know what I want to do? I want to work in insurance. I think most people I talk to in the space, it kind of landed on their laps of, oh, dang, I need a job. And somewhere in the healthcare industry, TPAs, Carrington, Dialcare was like, okay, yep, I'll go in and figure out. And it tends to be what I found in industry, people that just are hustlers and they know how to pull themselves up and work really hard and grow passion with time. And so I think it's really an interesting shift in the TPA space to try to see what that next generation is going to do.
Yeah.
I think we're ripe for innovation.
You're not wrong. You're either a legacy or someone lied to you along the way and you ended up in insurance. Although now there are advanced degrees, which is pretty impressive from being like a consultant based. The advanced degrees are phenomenal for some of the things that they're bringing, but it is a running joke, correct? It's been in the market forever.
Well, to wrap things up, anything you think people need to know about TPAs that we didn't cover?
I do believe, if anything, that TPAs are going to grow in popularity and volume, both. Yeah. You're seeing that with the ever-increasing cost of healthcare, and I think you're saying that each and every year. It's just, you meant that saying because it's in every meeting out there. TPAs are offering an opportunity to bend that cost curve through innovations and early innovations. They're the risk takers, and they're trying new solutions. They're kind of that first mover, if you will, a lot of times in the industry. So I would expect a continued expansion of their business model, and that's why I'm happy to be part of it. I said somewhere between happy and proud. I'm probably more proud to be part of it, to be honest.
No, Anthony and I just attended a conference just full of TPA administrators, and the amount of passion in that room was just overwhelming. The people that are really trying to do the best for their clients and their customers.
It reminds you how great they are.
Yeah.
And that they're still people. You see the names, you see the signs, you send the emails, you make the calls. But like anything, when you get a chance to shake folks' hands and meet them in person, it just means so much more.
Yep. And it's an industry most people don't know it touches their daily life so much.
No.
Right? The TPA is kind of in there in your healthcare, and everyone views healthcare as the doctor, the provider, the virtual care service. But really, the TPA is really shaping how your plan is designed, how it functions together, how it connects, making sure your claims get paid. What do you see as the future for virtual care and TPAs?
What I really see for virtual care, and it really revolves around the virtual primary care. I mean, they only mint about 50,000 primary care docs, and you've got the deserts. But what we're growing is a virtual HMO. And I don't know if people I almost stutter when I say HMO because the connotation necessarily isn't so good. I wish there was a better way to say it. But really, it's exactly what it is. It's the virtual primary care that sits as the hub in all of this. And then they direct virtual care services, whether it's, gen med, mental health, RX, dermatology. You can go chronic condition management. You go right down the line. And that's the first line of defense against the health plan.
All of those important things.
Amen.
Thank you guys, everyone. Anthony, so much appreciation for your time today. Anthony came all the way in from Florida to be with us today. You can listen to Dialed In on the Virtual Care Journey anywhere that you get your podcasts. Don't miss a beat. Like, subscribe, and follow wherever you tune in. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Your support helps us keep the conversation going and bring you more insights into the future of virtual care. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more information. Stay dialed in.